Jean-Marc, thank you so much for joining us here at Super Return International. You're going to be talking about lower mid-market, the appeal. Where is it at the moment and why is it a sector that you're particularly excited about?
Sure, thank you. Pleasure to be here. I think the lower market provides a very interesting part of the segment because there's a wall of money competing for deals today, and in the lower market you tend to buy directly from founders, founder-owned businesses that really want to find a partner that's going to help drive their business forward. They typically would be rolling over a chunk of their equity into the next deal as opposed to completely cashing out. So you're seeking a partner for the journey, you're seeking value-adding skills as an entrepreneur looking to raise capital. And we're in a particular nice spot of the market at Capital D in that we're sort of in between the venture capital phase and the middle market phase. And so we feel we've plugged that gap quite neatly.
And in terms of plugging that gap, where do you look for the expertise? Is it geographical? Is it sector? Where do you spot the sort of niche?
So maybe that takes us to the genesis of Capital D, which is the realization that disruption is accelerating as in everywhere, as in every sector. And the pace of change is therefore picked up tremendously over the past, certainly the past decade, and is only continuing to do so. And as a result, the traditional lens of private equity may not be as suitable to invest behind these fast-growing agile companies. And so what we assembled around Capital D is a set of skills that includes investment professionals, of course, that's a prerequisite, but also operating professionals, entrepreneur, digital specialists, innovation specialists, to provide a whole suite of skills to best advise and help and add value to these companies we invest in.
It's interesting what you said there, because there's been a lot of talk about how successful private equity has been in the past sort of 3 decades. It's almost become institutionalized, and what you're talking about there is it needs to go back to its roots and become more nimble perhaps to navigate through this sort of environment.
Absolutely. What we've witnessed is the barriers of change, the barriers to entry that traditional private equity has sought. A brand, a footprint, a store footprint, a network, a supply chain is no longer protection for change. And so agile companies, whether it's the direct to consumer on the digital side, whether it's all the cloud-enabled service businesses, are essentially disrupting and turning this model a little bit off its head. And so what we seek is not so much the traditional barriers to entry, but more the characteristics in those management teams and in the business model of these companies to be nimble, innovative, adapt to change, and have a business model that's flexible enough so that over the 4, 5 to 6 years we're typically invested in a business, they can readjust as they go along if the market environment dictates so.
Because those companies offer great opportunity, but they also have very specific risk attached to them, don't they?
Absolutely. So they're typically younger company in terms of how long they've been going on since inception. They've typically never been audited. They typically have a weak finance function, not unusual of other lower mid-market companies. But I think what we bring to the table is a set of operational, digital skills, sort of broader lateral vision, essentially help them with their growing pains to try to avoid some of the typical pitfalls along with strengthening the management team as we progress, etc. So some of the typical toolkit and skills that a lower mid-market professional brings, but with these couple of added features that we have through the team we've assembled to be best able to help these companies avoid some of these pitfalls.
So there are around 3,000 industry professionals descending on Berlin for Super Return International. What would your message be, and what do you hope they take away as the key message about what attributes you need at the moment to navigate and be part of the private equity industry going forward?
So I think you need to be, as an industry, private equity needs to realize that disruption is going to affect it as well in the same way it's affected other industries. So digital is very important. Agility of change and of business models and the companies you back. We believe that at Capital D we bring that in spades, in that because that's the genesis of Capital D, is embracing that disruption as opposed to trying to protect against it. And I think that nimbleness and being reactive to the world around you, as opposed to if you have a very set, say, very focused strategy on one particular sector, one particular country, you can hit a patch and for a couple of years it's going to be difficult to do deals in in that space.
And you need a very special team to be able to do that.
That's right. So at Capital D, what we bring is investment professionals, clearly operating professionals, entrepreneurs, innovation specialists, digital specialists that help provide these various skills that these founder-owned businesses that we back need. We've got affiliation with a company called Springwise, which helps us source innovation globally, so that allows us to stay a little bit ahead of the curve in terms of identifying what's coming next and then focusing on this, identifying the potential winners and then trying to obviously convince them that we're the right partner for them and really bring the value we claim we want to bring along the journey.
So just finally, what opportunities excite you the most at the moment?
So I mean, we're very focused on sustainability at the moment as a theme that we've been pursuing. I think that's a big growth area in the sense that we've been ignoring some of the negative effects on the planet over the past years, and now there's a bit of a catch-up going on. For the last couple of years, we focused on millennials as an asset class and how they drive change, and that resulted in a very attractive investment opportunity for us. We also focus on the war for talent that drove an investment in HR tech. Mobility is a very fast-moving segment. So we try to find where disruption is coming from in a particular sector and then zoom in on it and then identify the potential winners. Ultimately, what we're solving for is a company where we can take a sizable stake, that is a disruptive company that's headquartered in Europe, and where we can really be the partner for those typically founders for the next chapter of their growth.
Jean-Marc, great to talk to you. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you very much. Pleasure.